Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still such trouble. He's not on second and
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
They're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still such trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the iGPFun F3 League here for the final season in 2023. This is round 7, this is the Virginia International Raceway. Welcome along to another round of this great championship. We are now halfway through the season and at the moment we've seen some great racing up and down the world really. We've been all over the place, but now it's the turn of the Virginia International Raceway. We visit this circuit once again here tonight in what should be another great round of this championship. We've only been here twice before in this championship, by the way, and we're set for 28 laps of racing here tonight. Taking you through the action, it's myself, Ewan and Biggles will be alongside me for the evening. These are the championship standings going into this race. By the way, these are the overall points, so no drop weeks have been taken into account just yet. Kenzie Newhoff is 8 points ahead of Max Bartolotta, who for the moment is not here to start this race as far as I'm aware, so that will change of course. Tony Jimenez is in third, he's only 12 points off the championship lead, with Robert Ridgway and Luca Verani, the next two drivers, over 200 points. Adam Townsmer is in sixth ahead of Chuck Morrow, who has a few points over Evan Way. Greg Seitz and Stuart Milne round out the top 10 on the same points, 153. Then it's Andy Flint, just 5 points further back. Ivan Zuranow is in 12th ahead of Connor Gibb, who is performing quite well in this qualifying session that we'll show you in a couple of moments' time. Edward Amos is 14th ahead of Pedro Suarez, who is tied in 14th on 136 points. Then a little bit further down, of course, we've got the rest of the contenders, but the main of them started, of course, by Christian Glamseater. It's on 133. Then it's Jack Willems with Mark Gotlov's 18th place. Ben Goyette is in 19th ahead of Timo Brown, who rounds out the top 20. Then it's Will McIntyre Jones, Marcus Putnik, Richard Wested, Nick Carty to round out the top 24 and so on. And then they continue on. Vyacheslav Potapenko, Louis Gregg, Paolo Brem, John McKenzie, Regis Catini and Dorian Arroyo round out the top 30 that we normally go through in this series. 31 on the grid here tonight, by the way, as the rest of them cycle through on your screen at the moment in the championship standings. We currently have 31 21 on the grid at the moment, and who have currently set times as well. Although, admittedly, the times of Matt Brewer and Mike Sotlovs at the back are not necessarily representative. Connor Gibb is on the pole for the moment. Not a big gap over the rest. 42 thousandths ahead of Kenzie Newhoff, but he is fastest currently. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Dean Biggles here this evening. Good to have you alongside me again. Biggles, it's another round of the iGPFun F3 League here at the Virginia International Raceway, a notoriously difficult circuit with very little room for error.
That's what you like for drivers, of course. They earn their paychecks by getting it done on notoriously difficult circuits. Welcome, everybody, of course, to the chat. Say hello, as we've got a stacked grid of 31 drivers. This series, the IG Fun series there. Sorry, I feel like I've been casting all day. You've been casting all day, Ewan. I know that, but exactly, it's going to be, look at that, 42 thousandths of a second separating P1 and P2. And it's crucial, as you mentioned, in the championship that we have one of the driver in P2 and missing maybe their drop week this one around too.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to run through a little bit about the drop weeks as well, because I've done some calculations of my own and figuring out where these guys are going to be if drop weeks were taken into account. Now, the top 8 in the standings would actually all be covered by 24 points if 2 drop weeks were applied. We are going to start to do that. I think maybe for next round we'll start to put the drop weeks on at the start of the show. What you've just seen, of course, is the total points that we showed you just there. But if the 2 drop weeks were applied, then Max Bartolotta would be the championship leader by 2 points ahead of Kenzie Newhoff. Then Tony Jimenez would be 14 points back. Luca Varani would be 15 back. Greg Seitz at 16 back. It's all very close there. Evan Way in 19 points back in 6th. Then it will be Andy Flint, who is 21 points back in 7th. Then Connor Gibb, who is currently the pole sitter, 24 points back in 8th place. So that's how it would get applied. However, I don't believe I can see Max Bartolotta on the ground. He has just turned up. He's in 7th place at the moment. In the standings. I'm not sure whether he's been there the entire time or whether I've just only just noticed him.
You're right.
But he is in 7th place.
Hiding
so
from
apologies
us.
for missing him.
Trying to. So that's about it for our qualifying session. They're just going to be waiting for it to wrap up. So Connor must have a bit of a smile on his face there for the British 118 machine. Just eking that one out. Front row, of course, you always want to be on the front row. I would say I'll take a P1 and P2 any day of the week, especially when you have a stacked grid of 31 drivers. Last place you really want to be, Ewan's in the middle, isn't it? Because if it all goes pole-shaped up the road, you haven't got too many places to go. There are nice runoff areas, of course, but you don't. I mean, that grass gets a little slippery out there, and of course, you're going to be out seeing probably 20 or so drivers pass you on the first lap.
Yeah. You do generally get, you find it fairly difficult at some sections of this racetrack to actually hit the wall, but you will find yourself a long way in the runoff, in the grass, and you'll be floundering, losing lots of places. So it's not ideal. Edwin Amos improves there, is the only one to really improve, actually, in these final laps. He goes to 18th now, so inside the top 20 for him. He gets into the 138s just at the end. Adam Towns was on an out lap, so he's not going to complete his lap. Tony Jimenez, I don't believe that he's not completed his session yet, actually. But maybe he did get across the line in time before the checkered flag wave, did he? Maybe not. He seems to be going a bit slowly on the run-up through the S's here. And I think that may well be the end of it. Yeah, that's the end of his session.
He's got 53 seconds to go, of course. Once that checkered flag is, there's only a certain amount of time they have to complete the lap. And he's just playing with his food at the moment. Definitely not getting onto the loud pedal.
Yep. He goes into the alternative pit lane at VIR, which iRacing does pick up as being in the pit lane for some reason, as you can see on the left-hand side. And then not, because that's not really a pit lane at all. Or it's not really used in iRacing. I don't know any track that does, although I guess if you're using the West layout, or whatever it's called, then I guess you would be using that pit lane. Not going past the main pit building, of course, at this circuit. Let's take a look at the grid before we get into 28 laps here this evening at the Virginia International Raceway for this round of the iGPFun F3 League for the final season in 2023. This is round number 7. We are 6 rounds from the completion of this championship. And it's Connor Gibb, the runner-up from last season, ahead of the champion, Kenzie Newhoff. Christian Glamsitter and Roberto Fay round out row 2, with Greg Seitz back on form in 5th. He's ahead of Pedro Suarez. Then it's Max Bartolotta, championship leader if the drop weeks are applied, in 7th alongside his compatriot Andrea Cata. Then it is Tony Jimenez and Luca Verani to round out the top 10. Andy Flint and Sebastian Graveland are on row 6, ahead of Chuck Morrow and Koji Ito. Roberto Ridgway and Zoltan Zamota share row 8. Lloyd Gregg and Eddie Amos are just behind them, the final drivers within the second of pole. Then it's Chris Stewart and Evan Zura now to round out the top 20. Philip Lucas and Adam Townsborough on row 11, ahead of Jacques Willems and John McKenzie. Dorian Arroyo is 25th, ahead of Reno Scatini. It's Reed Dennis and Matthew Gracie on an all-American row 14, with Ben Goyette, Matt Brewer and Marek Zotlovs rounding out the 31 drivers on the grid here this evening. A very, very stacked grid indeed, as you say, Biggles, and we're going to see everyone bounding down in towards turn 1 very soon. It's going to get very, very narrow there very quickly. I'm just so,
you don't win a race on the first lap. Everybody's well aware of that one. You win it by seeing Barney at the end of the race. So I would be wise to a lot of the drivers not to take too many gambles too quickly, too early. I'm trying to tell a race driver that, but you know that for a fact that they're not going to just sit back and not take an opportunity if gap car scenario. I got rolling back to that pit lane situation you mentioned there before, if you're aware or not. I'd have to say, Ewan, considering the amount of experience you have commentating on many, many different iRacing leagues, and if you don't even know what exists, I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist. Never say never, but Connor is going to be on the front row.
Exactly, never say never. Connor Gibb will indeed take the pole position then, and that run down towards turn 1. Of course, we do have the orange zone at the start of the race, and that means no active overtakes going to be made for the first moments in towards turn 1 at least, and so they're going to have to make sure that they all get through here cleanly without trying to overtake each other, basically, actively in towards turn 1. The lights come on, and round 7 of the iGPFun F3 League for this season is now underway. The launch, of course, still very important, despite the lack of active overtaking in towards turn 1, and Connor Gibb negotiates that turn 1 very well indeed. Christian Glamseater gets a good start, and he's alongside Kenzie Newhoff, and he's staying in line, of course, and so that will be permitted. He goes through on the inside line into second place immediately, and Christian Glamseater makes up 1 position off of the start. Robert Ridgway has done the same on Koji Ito as well, back in the pack, and so has Chris Stewart on Edward Amos. It's going to kick off a little bit more, a bit further down, and Sebastian Graveland and Andy Flint go side by side. That's a change for 11th position, but they make their way out of the first corners. We are underway here. Unfortunately, the only driver to go off the road, I think, Koji Ito and Evan Zura now, who's properly off the road now. Evan Zura now into the wall for the Belarusian driver, and he's got no rear wing either.
Oh, big trouble already on the first lap of the race. Not for Mr. Connor, because he managed to get himself up into that P. Look at that, he's got a gap already. And getting his teammate just behind him, which is perfect launch there for the No Limits Racing team. As you saw, Kensley making a little bit of a mistake there off the race start. We'll get back and replay it a little bit, but there it is right now. And of course, he's got the Italians. I was going to say the Italian stallion called for Roberto. On his tailpipe, ready to challenge him.
Here we go, into the roller coaster we go. 14 and 14A, not quite. Roberto Fay stays behind. It's a very, very difficult braking zone up there, of course, and you cannot be uncareful, if that's or reckless, careless, depending on what word you want to use, on the way up through there if you're trying to make an overtake. End of lap 1 here at the Virginia International Raceway then. It's Connor Gibb who leads the way. Christian Glamseater second. Then it's Kenzie Newhoff. Roberto Fay in 4th ahead of Greg Seitz, who's going to look for a move. The American is surely going to be sent to the outside. Fay breaks late, and he's going to defend to the inside as well. On the way in towards the corner, Pedro Suarez is going to look to pick up the pieces from further back. It's an over and under from Greg Seitz as he gets himself to the outside this time for NASCAR Bend. He's going to be squeezed through here, and he's not going to do it. Outside line is not going to be the one that prevails, and so Roberto Fay goes from challenging for 3rd to defending for 4th, but at least he hangs on to the place.
He did do a fantastic job to hang on to that. Absolutely, as you could see, wheel-to-wheel racing on lap 2 of 28 overall for the time that we're going to be working on this as well. Connor's still leading it, but yes, is this 8 over this battle? Because Greg is going to be sizing him up again, and what can Roberto do here? What can he do to defend him? He has got Pedro, of course, the Portuguese driver, just lurking in the background here. And whilst they're all doing this, yeah, staying a little bit of a gap there. The leader's not really pulling away. You can see Glamster's now starting to reel them in.
Still all very close. The top 10 all covered by gaps less than a second incrementally here. The gap's probably closest between Max Bartolotta and Pedro Suarez as Roberto Fay pulls out of line. Is that to break the slipstream? Is that to defend? What is that to do? Well, he's going to hold on to the place anyway as Max Bartolotta gets down the inside of Pedro Suarez just behind this camera shot, and he does make his way through. So the drop week leader of the championship, I guess you could call him, is now back up into 6th place, although 3 positions behind Kenty Newhoff, which would currently lose him the championship lead here at round 7. Out over the line we go again with Roberto Fay. This is the shot from Pedro Suarez, who was waiting for that battle for 4th to commence earlier on. He's got a battle of his own now. Max Bartolotta on the defence, and so is Roberto Fay. The Italians on the inside in towards turn 1. Bartolotta hangs on, so does Roberto Fay in their respective battles.
It seems to be very, very difficult to get the overtake done, isn't it? You send the dummy down there, and of course you get hit by a brick wall of air, and then you lose all that momentum and speed. And you've got to continue to size it up there for another opponent and do it again and again and again. I think we've had a little bit of a switcheroo also occurring back here at the moment. As you can see, that's a very slow Sebastian coming out of the turn, as you'd expect. And now they're going to get ready for one of the main straightaways. Not many of them, not really.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, Sebastian Grabland all over the grass there, I'm afraid, through the S's, the snake, as it's called. Turn 5A, 6 and 6A on the exit there. Side by side between Adam Townsend and Koji Ito up through the S's as well. That's not going to turn out well until they get that sorted out early on. Robert Ridgway are now out of the race. I think there's been connection problems for him. Oh no, he's back again. Oh well, he's
blinking light of death, unfortunately, their partner.
Yeah. Not good news for Robert Ridgway. Hopefully that fixes itself in the not too distant future as Koji Ito is off down at Oak Tree. That's not the last time we're going to see that tonight, I wouldn't imagine, because it's a difficult section of corners. This is Ivan Zura now making his way back out of the pit lane again. Good to see him still in the race, actually, after his incidents earlier on. What's happened here to Chuck Morrow? That's a bit wide through NASCAR Bend, and he is going to lose a place as a result of running wide there. Roberto Fay still on the defensive. They've made their way out of the final corner now, out of Hogpen and in towards turn 1. It's almost like watching a replay again and again and again, because Greg Sykes is on the outside, and this time he still can't make his way through, but he's getting more joy. Around the outside he goes, but still no chance. It's a very long hairpin to go around the outside of, and once again Greg Sykes hasn't been able to do it.
I think you've got to get a good exit through here now. Absolutely. Try to get as close, tucked up to the gearbox as possible. He knows that because he's got a hurdle of cars behind him. As you can currently see, Roberto there is the one that's actually holding them up just a little bit. We're only talking about a little bit, but this is a lot when it comes at this level of competition as we go on board Roberto for the Italian driver. As you can see in his rear wing, the battles that are occurring. This is actually, for Greg, it's troubling him, isn't it? Because if he doesn't get this overtake done soon, Max is on his tailpipe. And we all know what, if you have a name of Max in open wheel motor racing, it kind of gives you a little bit of a boost, doesn't it? Look at that.
Yeah, it does at the moment, it does in 2023. Oh, that's not good though. The line was all wrong from Max Bartolotta, and Pedro Suarez just behind us here is surely going to get involved, although Suarez is going to have to tuck out of line, and he's going to have to try and get slipstream from somewhere, and he's not going to get any, whereas Bartolotta will. Is Greg Sykes going somewhere else as well? No, not quite. He's not going for it in a different section of the racetrack, and Bartolotta hangs on. It's difficult to make these moves, of course, when you're in a train like this and the slipstream just goes away from you like that for Suarez, and so Bartolotta will hang on again. Once again, Greg Sykes is close. He gets these great runs out the final corner, but he just can't do it in towards turn 1. Roberto Fay makes absolutely sure he's going to be on the inside line on the way in towards the braking zone here. Greg Sykes pulls to the outside, takes the longer route through here. He squeezes Fay as much as possible to the inside of turn 2. Now to the outside goes Greg Sykes. It's not going to happen again. It's another replay, lap 5, and the 5th time he's unsuccessfully made his way through.
The Italian's doing absolutely everything to defend, doing it right. Perfect. And if anything, it's forcing Greg into little mistakes there. And now Max, of course, he's got the overtake done before that. He's going to be working on it, and that's a little blinking light of death, unfortunately, for Roberto. Yes, he has, and he's dropping at the moment. Hopefully he's going to appear, and he's completely out of this one. Oh, no, you hate to see. That's a disconnection issue. Look at him dropping like a stone there. You hate to see it from anybody involved in this level of esports competition because, yeah, they put so much work and effort into it, and just like that, you know, your mum's turned the microwave on or something like that, and it's interfered with your Wi-Fi, in big trouble. Oh, it's power slide there for Max.
Oh, That was a big slide. You can't go too wide there into Oak Tree either, because you do find yourself in the grass and pulled off into the wall very quickly as well. That is one of the places on this circuit where the wall is quite close, and so you can't afford an error. Greg Seitz will now lead the train then after his wanting to go through. We go on board with Christian Glamseter, who's still challenging for the lead here but hasn't been able to do it yet.
Oh, this is actually spicy because they've all caught up, haven't they? So now you have the Brit versus the Norwegian versus the Dutch driver. So it's spicy. It's at 3, and then you got a 2-second gap to that battle that we saw just before. That now Sainz has a little bit of breathing space, but then again he has Max charging down his tailpipe. So multiple battles across this fantastic track. Like 6 of 28, 23 to remain.
Oh no. Adam Towles, but look, Chris Stewart, and off is Philip Lucas as well. Oh, it's all gone on here. What has gone on here? Chris Stewart is back down to 22nd. There's been a 3-driver incident because Adam Townsend was here as well. It was side by side for Philip Lucas and Chris Stewart. Oh, they've come together, and Adam Townsend has had to go off in avoidance. There he goes as well. Dear, what a mess that was as the two collided on the run down the hill.
Yes, oh, you're absolutely right. When we get a second, we'll go back to the race start so we can see how that launch panned out. But at the moment, the top 3 are working tooth and nail, and Kensley wants to be a part. He wants to split no racing sim racing team, but the hydro racing forces. He says, like, you know, a bit of water power might work.
Yes, Christian Glamseter just goes off the road ever so slightly there, by the way. Hydro Race Racing Forces are leading the championship with Kenzie Newhoff and Pedro Suarez. No Limit Sim Racing moved up to second, by the way, in the last round of the championship, so they're now 30 points behind Hydro Race, with Scuderia Hydro Racing Forces, Formula Sim Racing Team by RS, in third place in the standings. That's 36 points covering the top 3 teams in those teams' standings. Christian Glamseter is, of course, making up half of the No Limit Sim Racing team, who are 1 and 2 at the moment, with Connor Gibb and Christian Glamseter, with Kenzie Newhoff of Hydro Racing Forces just in behind. The top teams represented, I should say, at the top of the order, as you'd expect.
And now let's see if Christian Glamseter can reel in. Sorry, I mean, it's Kenzie, I mean. Jeez. You think I've been casting all day. Look at this. Now, you got to wonder at the moment if Glamster's quicker than Connor. If Connor's to be thinking at working together as teammates, you'd be like, okay, go through, my friend. Who's going to be, and also you'll be talking together as a team going, who do you think is the best defender in the team? I would always like a blocker to help me out if I feel that they can. That's going to be good communication between the teammates if they are communicating. Sometimes some teammates don't want to communicate and just do their own thing. But at the moment, Kensley's the one that wants to break this party up.
Yeah, he is, and it's going to be difficult to do with the 2 in front. Dorian Arroyo and Matthew Gracie have gone off the road as well in the early part of the lap in the first sector. I'm afraid it's all been going on outside the top 20 for some of these drivers, unfortunately. But out front, it's still Gibb, Glamseter and Newhoff out front, and then there's this group for 4th place. Greg Seitz was the one applying all the pressure to Roberto Fay. Of course, he got through in the end as a result of technical problems, and now those further behind have started to catch up a little bit. It's Bartolotta, Suarez and Kata who are all in the train now. And there won't be any moves in towards roller coaster here, I don't think, for them. There may be for Newhoff, though. He's getting closer. He's not going through, though. I think it is interesting what you mentioned about the teammates in 1 and 2. Is this the right arrangement of teammates? Is this the best arrangement of teammates? Or would Glamseter be better placed in the lead of this one ahead of Gibb?
It's difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, because the thing is, they are keeping Kenzie behind them. And that's the main thing, Kensley. And it's working, but of course if one of them makes a mistake, just a tiny little bit of mistake, we've seen a few drivers do that, it doesn't matter what level you are, everybody is at least human. There is no AI racing here, so they can make mistakes, and look at this, at the moment you've got Carter trying to set one up in the inside here on Pedro and Andrea. Good wheel-to-wheel racing here, this is a battle back for P6, my friend.
Yeah. Outside of NASCAR Bend is not going to happen for him, though, so he stays behind again. It's been an engaging race so far, I've got to say. 7 laps down, just over 20 still to go in this one at Virginia International Raceway. It's side-by-side further back between Adam Townsma and Chris Stewart. That's Townsma making his way through. Of course, Townsma had to dive off to the side of the circuit to avoid Stewart earlier on in this race. Now back on the right track again. John McKenzie has made a mistake, unfortunately, in the first sector as well, and he's now dropping down outside the top 20. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of mistakes going on from almost everybody so far. Let's see how it happens to John McKenzie. This is into NASCAR Bend. Just gets a wheel onto the grass and goes wide. That is all too easy to do around this circuit.
Yeah, that's why you love to have a little runoff area, of course, so that you have the ability to come back on the track there slowly and hopefully proper way to re-enter the track there and not have to destroy anybody else's race. I mean, there's no walls like Bathurst or any of those other tracks that are going to come out and bite you like Long Beach and etc. But still the top three, no changes at the moment, and whatever, Connor Gibb is doing, he's now made a little bit more of a gap there to his teammate. So this may be for Kensley to think about, because they've got 2.3 seconds to Greg Saints down the road, and he's going to be setting it now. Maybe it's a dummy.
Oh,
lock up!
It's a lock up though. And Glamsy just gets a lock up. He's just put off ever so slightly by Kenzie Newhoff getting into the mirrors there. He's on the outside into NASCAR Bend though, and that's not going to happen on this occasion. It's a good run out the corner though, and to the inside he goes. Kenzie Newhoff, no, it's not going to happen that time either. So Christian Glamsy hangs on, but look at the gap to the lead. It's extended out to a second as a result of that battle.
Yeah, these battles, unless of course that's a bit of a team call there to say Christian slow him down so that he could just race and defend him and let Connor just get on with his business up the road there. Who knows what's going on? There's tactics at play. But at this point, Kenzie got to be... I think sending that dummy was not a bad idea, but the second time he sent the dummy, he compromised his racing line, entry and exit.
Unfortunately, by the way, Louis Craig is into the pit lane. It's now down to 26th. I think there was contact at the latter part of the lap, and there he is out of the car and out of the race to join the likes of Mark Sotlovs, Roberto Fay and Philip Lucas, all of whom are out of the race as well. Ivan Zura now did rejoin again, interestingly, so has Reed Dennis after their incidents, as we've got side by side for second again. Maximum attack from Christian Glamsitter on the inside there, who does very well to hang on to second again.
He's doing everything, isn't it? Perfect. Textbook's perfect. It looks like a brake duct was just about to explode there for a second on his rear right, which is our stage left. That's my theatre coming back into play there. But you got to be wondering. So Kenzie lost that place off the start. And when I get a second, I'm going to go back and actually show you the race start so we can kind of see exactly how he did lose that position. So let's go back and have a look at this from our race start. Perhaps a little blimp camera can give us an indication. There it is there. So it just bogs down just a little bit, doesn't it? Just takes that little fraction of a second delayed launch time. And then into the first corner on the inside line, of course, we're looking at Christian. And that's where Kensley now drops to P3. And since that's the same places that they've been at as they're continuing to battle.
Yeah, the top three still in the same positions that they were in that shot there. I do wonder, was it Newhoff bogging down or Glamsy having a good start? Because everybody seemed quite even, including Newhoff actually. But I think Glamsy just got the pick of the starts there and did very well on the inside of turn one to get through. That's a bit wide from Matt Brewer, unfortunately, as he takes a trip through the grass. I think it's been kicking off for fourth place as well, as Kata now has been caught by Pedro Suarez. Max Bortolotta is still behind Greg Seitz as well. There is the view of Kata as he tries to stay ahead of Suarez. Robert Ridgway has gone off down towards Oak Tree, unfortunately, and his compatriot Chuck Morrow is going to overtake him as a result of that as well for 12th place. Ridgway has at least got his front wing still attached, so we know at least he hasn't been into the wall too hard, if he's been into the wall at all. Sebastian Graveland is going to be on the defensive from Zoltan Zamota as well, who's looking for some moves here in towards the roller coaster section of the course. Side by side they go, very late on the brakes, too late from Graveland, and here goes Zamota round the outside through the second part. No, Graveland hangs on to 13th.
Yeah, we get a shot. I love the roller coaster because it is, isn't it? You don't realize how just climbing down that hill, it feels like you're at a roller coaster. I'm pretty sure they'll probably get a millisecond of zero gravity too, considering you got the speed that you carry through there is amazing in these F3 machines. The old school ones, but it doesn't really matter. They're driving the pants off these Scandinavian driver there, Sebastian. And we got Norway there, partner. Yeah.
Graveland and Zamota still battling away side by side, and Graveland hangs on again. So he will be 13th. And there is Zoltan Zamota hanging on to 14th for the moment. 2 places gained from him so far today. Biggest mover forward is Matt Brewer with 10 places. He's back in 20th, by the way, as we go back to the leaders. This is the battle for 4th place. A couple of runs wide from Sites and Bertilla as they go or went through South Bend, turn 10, which is a wonderfully committed corner on this circuit, by the way. Really great high-speed challenge. And Sites and Bertilla got it slightly wrong that time around, but they're okay. Still on the road. Sites should be able to hold on to 4th this time around. And I think we've reached a bit of a calming period in this race now through the middle for this battle anyway. It was side by side almost every lap for 4th earlier on, but now no longer. It has calmed down.
Oh, who wants calm? We need a storm to be kicking up here at the moment, and it has been a storm at the Virginia International Raceway out here into the forest. You see all the pine trees, and I shouldn't be calling them pine trees, whatever the trees are. I absolutely never been to Virginia. But we are here in the virtual world, and this is the second pack. Now look at that. So Glamsters, what's happened to Newhoff? He's just backed off. He's 1.2 seconds down the road there, electing just to run his own little race at the moment. 39.6 the last lap, 39 flat for Christian, so he's dropping a little bit more time. And this is where you're seeing Mr. Greg has these gaggle of cars behind him. So Greg's got a mirror full of cars that want to get past. We know Greg's going to do his absolute best. Very difficult to overtake around here, as you see. You're going to have to commit whatever you commit. Last late breakers, get it done. Otherwise, you scrub too much speed off, and then all these cars behind you right now may very well be overtaking you.
Well, that's a possibility at the moment for Max Bertilla, as his compatriot Andrea Catta is right behind on the way in towards the S's. Then you've got Suarez, who we're on board with right now. He's right in there as well, although just backs off going into South Bend. Doesn't want to follow them too closely, because you don't want your tyres to go wrong, and you want to be able to see where you're going as well. So just affords himself that bit of space. He doesn't get the entry to Oak Tree particularly correct, though, and so he's going to struggle to make any moves here. Bertilla got a very good run through there, but he started quite a long way behind Greg Sites on this straight. Andrea Catta, I don't think, got a good enough run, even though he did stay quite close through Oak Tree. Bertilla gains some more, and he looks, but he won't go for it. Wow, that's close. Almost pushing Sites through the corner, but he doesn't attempt the move in the end, and thankfully he doesn't make major contact either.
He's like, move, get out my way. That's what he's yelling in the cockpit right now. Come on. You got compromised a little bit with the speed difference between them, but hey, this is wheel-to-wheel racing. You're going to expect a little bit of that. Further back, now it's Carlton to take an opportunity there. Pedro.
Here goes Suarez. Round the outside, and here goes Bertilla as well, down the inside. Oh, big move into turn 1. Oh, and he shoved him off the road. They're both off the road, and Catta goes around as well. Greg Sites, Andrea Catta, and Max Bertilla have all had a disaster here, I'm afraid. Out through turn 1, it was Andrea Catta who goes for the spin. Sites and Bertilla went wide, and Pedro Suarez gains on all of them into 4th place.
Oh, just like that, isn't it? That's like, thank you very much. Tick that one. You don't want to actually get gimmies, essentially, because of the racing incidents, but hey, you're there because that's what racing's all about. So we'll have a look at that one again too on the replay, because that's exactly right, you said. So where did you think it all started, my friend? Around here?
Well, this is a place to start. Although this is Townsburg. Oh dear, what's gone on here?
Else. Ooh.
That's Adam Townsburg. Yeah, dear, oh dear, got that all wrong into the roller coaster, and he's now back to the pit lane. I think that was Chris Stewart just in front of him, and that's not the first time that they've been in incidents together. Now this is the one for Bertilla. Yeah. Just brakes too late, serves Sites off the road, and I think Andrea Catta just drops it on power on his own.
I think you're right, because he's trying to react to the racing incident, and you know what it's like. You panic, of course, and you slam on the brake there, or try to oversteer yourself out of the situation, just as you would in a road car, of course. If you see a car spinning on the freeway to the left or to the right, you panic. And even though these are professional race drivers, they're still going to do that. It's just natural reactions of the human body to be able to forcefully go, oh, I'm in a trouble situation, and then react. You have to have, essentially, okay, excuse the French, but balls of steel to not react like that. Ooh. There's a lockup.
What's going on there? That's Adam Townsburg making his way out the pit lane. Yeah. For whatever reason, getting involved in the battle for 4th place now, which is headed by Pedro Suarez, as we now know. Max Bertilla is still 5th, but I'm surely he's going to be looked at for a penalty after this race as a result of that incident. Reed Dennis, unfortunately, is retired from the race. He just pulls to the right-hand side there at one of the access roads and retires from the day, which is a shame. On board now with Christian Glamsinger, still second between the two leaders as we go back to Tony Jimenez versus Luca Varani, both of whom gained as a result of those incidents at turn 1 we saw a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, you can see the positions gained there for a lot of drivers at the moment as they go out into the dirty side of the track out there and pick up a little bit of dust on the tyres there. But you're seeing currently the 222 machine for the Swiss driver up the road there from Tony Jimenez, the Spaniard, under a bit of pressure right now there.
Here he goes down the inside. Or at the outside, depending on which way you look at it. It switches around there at the roller coaster, and they'll stay where they are. End of another lap. We're now halfway already here at the Virginia International Raceway for round 7 of the iGPFun F3 League. It's the final season of 2023, and it's shaping up to be a fantastic one. Great battles so far here today, but the field's starting to spread out a little bit more as we settle into the middle part of this race. On board with Greg Seitz, who was pushed out wide by one of the championship contenders, Max Bartolotta, in towards turn 1 a couple of laps ago. He's now caught up with Varani and Jimenez, and he'd very much like to take these 2 places that he lost back again.
Well, I think he's going to be sitting these 2 drivers, I mean, watching it from his bird's eye perspective there, just seeing how they're going to be tackling it, and they know how difficult it is to overtake around here, so he's going to be sitting there watching them, see if they're going to perhaps even come together there and try to steal those positions back or snatch those positions. They're not burgling it. We're not James at the moment. They're leaving the door open and burgling it is the famous trademark that James would say here in the JP Broadcasting Network. And here's Greg on a charge.
He is. Through the S's they go, absolutely flat out, of course. They're just gentle rights and lefts before the slightly less gentle south bend. This is the left-hander. Very close to going off their sights. It just dips a couple of wheels over and stays on the road, thankfully. Now into Oak Tree. Has to pull back in for a late apex and swings wide into the grass there as well. Don't think the exit was good enough, although because he started so close to the back of Tony Jimenez, he might be able to go for it anyway. Another disadvantage, of course, is that Jimenez is in the slipstream of Varani, but that doesn't seem to matter. Greg Seitz is pulling alongside now and going for this inside line in towards the roller coaster and gets it done. Greg Seitz is through into 7th position. It was a textbook move in the end.
Amazing, yeah, and that's not an easy thing to do. So you timed the perfect exit there. So you had the straight line speed, had the slipstream, and then just goes bingo. Thank you very much. I'll take that one. Of course, what goes around comes around. So Tony might be actually contemplating on doing that himself there on the next couple of laps. So you can still see hanging with him. And in fact, Tony ain't going to give this one up that easy. I tell you what, too, as well, my friend, is that you know how you kick up some of that dust out of that corner? At some point, I would actually like to kick up that dust because it's going to get a face full of dirt, isn't it, for the driver behind? That'd be very difficult to try to focus on your driving, isn't it, when you get all that kicked up into your race visor.
Yeah, it's difficult to deal with, certainly, and you get a lot of it around here at VIR. Out through the snake section they go, and Zoltan Zamota's off the road, I'm afraid. Is back on again now, thankfully, in 14th position. But I think just went wide through NASCAR Bend, and he's back on again. We're now in the second half of the race, of course, and you can certainly tell with some of the gaps that we've got out there on the circuit. Some of them have extended out quite large indeed. But Pedro Suarez versus Max Bartolotta, still a fight that's going on here for 4th place. So on the back straight they go towards the roller coaster. Famous turn 14 and 14A, where we've seen so much drama so far in this race. Bartolotta gets closer, but no, he won't go through on Pedro Suarez this time, who breaks quite late, and Bartolotta takes a better line through here. Down the hill now towards the hog pen, and turn 17 and 17A. A bit wide, bit of a slide, and I don't think Bartolotta's going to be close enough for a move this time.
No, but you want to be able to make sure you're filling your driver's mirrors. That's all you need to be doing. You need to play the psychological games right now. Make him think that, okay, I'm going to try to send an overtake here.
He has. Wow, he's got it stopped as well. He's got it stopped, and Bartolotta's through. Well, I wasn't expecting that particularly, but he broke very, very late and somehow got it stopped in time, takes the place.
That was impressive. It even caught me off guard. But look at this from our blimp camera. Sends it up on the inside, doesn't he? Got to grant it to Pedro. Yeah. Allowing enough space is kind. I mean, not all drivers would do that, isn't it? Basically, okay, here you go, mate. If you're gonna send it up the inside, here you go. I'll leave the door open a little bit. But that's because maybe Pedro wants it back.
Wow, he certainly does, through the S's and into South Bend. That's the problem with this section of the circuit, really, is that there's no chance to go through anymore. But in towards Oak Tree, he's going to need that good run again. Bertilla has struggled sometimes with going wide out of Oak Tree.
Both did.
And he has done it again slightly, but the run was actually all right that time. The run was actually pretty decent from Bertilla, and Suarez has started nearly 4 tenths behind going onto this straight. So I think it's going to be quite a task for him to get alongside, but it is a long straight, it's a long back straight, and it's a big run in towards roller coaster. He will back off though, and he will not go for it, and Max Bertilla will consolidate 4th place. But yeah, what a move. He came from so far back into turn 1.
It was surprising, and I'm wondering if Pedro's going to realise that and say, yeah, okay, once again, all right, you've done that on me, let's see if I could do it on you. Because obviously it's proven it's possible, but it's also up to whether or not the driver's going to allow enough space. You saw that. He did allow the space on the inside and said, all right, here you go, dummied him. And look at that, Pedro's now going to give him an opportunity. Now, this is it. Pedro can't be on the outside. He can switcheroo, perhaps, get on the power earlier right now. As Pedro will see the little bit of a gain. Max is kind of, matching him on the paces. They're going to be chasing each other through this fantastic circuit. Look at that, 150, 60 kilometers an hour. Switch it back down into second gear. Courtesy of our lovely graphics there. Kilometers an hour. I don't know, you guys are confused with the metric system, but there it is.
It's fine by me. I'm fine with kilometres an hour. Most of the people watching this, I imagine, will be European. Sorry to the Americans who may well be watching this back a little bit later on. Our American drivers, of whom we have quite a lot of, as you can see, inside the top 12. 4 of the top 12 are American. And if any of them are watching it back, then I apologise. But kilometres an hour is just a bit better.
Oh, so, that's a little bit of a mistake. They both did it. So Pedro's copied him into the corner. Pedro's used Max as his racing line. A lot of drivers do that. Yeah. But now he's going to have the exit speed.
Yeah, will do. And here we go. It's absolutely side by side. Because he's pulled out so early, though, it's basically a drag race between them along the back straight. Now they plunge downhill and back upwards again in towards turn 14. Bertilla hangs around the outside for the first spot to give him the inside at the second. I think Suarez is waiting for turn 1.
All right, that's one for the chat out there. Unfortunately, nobody's chatting, but I guess most of the drivers will be looking at this one back. That's the one I'd put a poll up there and say, well, he's waiting for turn 1 if we had time. Keep an eye. There's also a battle that's really starting to brew for behind in P6 too, but here's another opportunity for Pedro. Suarez soaring his way for the Portuguese driver. Is this going to be the possibility of an overtake there now? No, Ewan. Still not.
Just so late on the brakes into that corner. He's so late on the brakes, and it's just impossible to get past him at the moment. Pedro Suarez is finding this very, very difficult indeed. And through NASCAR Bend, Bertilla even goes a slightly bit wide, but no, it's not going to hinder him. He goes wide a bit again there. Oh, the line was all wrong. Suarez gets closer, but there's no way through, really. There's no overtaking chances coming up here.
Not unless you want to see the end of the race, of course. There's always overtaking opportunities, but only formidable overtaking opportunities. 2 retirements at the moment, as you can see on your timing table. We've actually got more retirements than that, my apologies. But for now, we've been so action-focused on these two. Stealing the spotlight on the stage here of VIR.
6 retirements so far, by the way. 25 still in the race at the end of lap 19. Now, Pedro Suarez pulls alongside again. Luca Varani is catching up to these guys, by the way, and the gap even back to Andy Flint in 10th is not that big because of the way these two are going at each other. The Portuguese driver is now finally through, though. Pedro Suarez now into 4th position. Max Bertilla almost forced to hand that position over eventually.
And that's probably a very good thing for Pedro to be unleashed and up the road there. And he's got to continue that momentum because, as you said, with Max, he's now got the rest of the pack that's catching him. That's what generally happens, don't you? You've seen that before in multiple racing leagues over the years, that when cars are battling, it brings everybody else into play because they're scrubbing speed themselves, trying to battle each other and not the track. And this man, of course, Luca, he's been quietly just sitting there, homing in, shaving a few tenths here, there, everywhere, and wanting to be a part of this party. He says, hey, I got my invitation. Let's go. I'm here.
Yeah, he's certainly got himself an invite, and he's now ready to get involved. Max Bertilla is not exactly being blown out the water by Pedro Suarez either. the two of them still seem quite well matched. It does seem that around this circuit, the slipstream relatively important, even though the twisty and difficult technical nature of this circuit is very much present. Being in that slipstream is very, very crucial, as Pedro Suarez, we get a replay of him now getting back into that fourth position, which he managed to do last lap.
And there it is, exactly. We like to replay, obviously, more than just accidents and incidents. So we also like to replay the great driving craft of getting an overtake done, because that's 10 times more difficult to get an overtake done than it is to make a mistake on the track. And Max not giving it up, of course, as Maxes don't, for the Italian stallion. I don't know, he's never actually said he'd have any problems with that. But look at that, sending up the inside there, and they've switched through again. Max back in.
Oh.
P4.
Well, they really are just exchanging now. This is 8 laps to go when they get to the line now. It just makes you wonder what they're going to do for the remainder here. Is anyone going to be able to break away and hold on to that fourth place without challenge, or are we going to see a battle to the line? Are we going to see a jockeying for position where the driver in front wants to be behind for the last lap and all those kind of games? Not entirely sure, but into turn 1, the two of them don't seem to be getting quite as close. Tony Jimenez now is quite close to these guys as well, as he starts to put the pressure on Greg Seitz for 7th.
And more importantly, Christian Glams has got a call up there to say he just got the fastest lap, a 38.9, a 39.21. He saved about half a second off Connor, that's been leading this race the whole time now. So do you wonder at the moment if Christian's going to be thinking about stealing that P1 away from Connor Gibbs? So that'll be something else to look out for with 8 laps to go, as we're still on board the battle, potentially still for P4.
Still going on here for 4th place. It's Seitz involved now as well. So, Bartolotta is in that 4th place. Then it's Suarez, Ferrari, Seitz, Jimenez, Kata to round out the top 9, and Andy Flint is not that far away either. I don't think Suarez is close enough this time. The run is quite good off of the Oak Tree corner, but he started more than half a second behind, and the slipstream is obviously not quite as effective at that distance, although it is a factor. Now we look at the leaders, because Connor Gibb is starting to be reeled in at the end here. Wonder whether he's gone out too hard and he's suffering on his tyres, or whether Glamsey is just growing into this race and getting quicker as we go along.
I'm absolutely hoping there's no team orders at this play. I mean, team orders, I would say, at the start of the race there, so they make sure that they kept Kenzie at bay, which they did, because they got a 4-second gap over him now when he was challenging to try to steal those positions away from them. But now I'd say for No Limits Racing, it's no limits, right, guys? So that means it should be no team orders as well, too. So if Christian wants to steal this one away from Connor, he's going to have to do it on track with 7 laps remaining. And I think that's all fair game, isn't it? Because it'll also show you how great Connor's drive will be if he can also keep Christian away, because Christian is gaining faster and faster per lap now.
Yeah, I've got no fears of team orders between these two. I think they will battle it out to the end. Given Glams here. Tony Jimenez is being forced to defend here. Oh, and into the back of him goes Andrea Kata. Tony Jimenez and Andrea Kata make contact as the Italian was trying to get a run out of the corner. He just got straight into the back of the Spaniard. And fortunately, they've both still got all their bodywork attached, because that was a dangerous move in one of these cars.
Yeah, hopefully you do have it all attached there, as you can see there. I'm going to read that. It's a Goodyear Hydro Race Racing Forces something by Team Forces form. Oh, there's the contact up the road. That's getting a bit spicy and dicey as they realise they are getting down to the final 7 or so laps remaining of this race. And they're wanting these points. Crucially, they're wanting these points in this championship, as you said, because it's the last race of this year. We've had a crash too. I believe they're from Matt. Matty's all the way down in Pont Last at this point, so I don't really switch the cameras over to that, because this is where the action is currently here for the iGPFun Racing League. Round 7, live.
It's Andrea Kata making his way through on Tony Jimenez for 8th place. And Andy Flint has caught up as a result of that as well, though they've lost 2 seconds now to the group in front. That battle is slightly just quietened down now as Max Bartolotta consolidates that 4th place, and will only lose a point to Kenzie Neuhoff at the end of the day by the looks of it. Connor Gibbs still weathering this storm from Christian Glamsey. 6 laps to go, including the one that we're on right now. So not long remaining at all in this whirlwind of a race. I've got to say, very few times this season have we seen so much battling inside the top 10 all day long and all race long. But that's exactly what we've got here tonight at the Virginia International Raceway. Through NASCAR Ben goes to this battle for 12th place. Sebastian Graveland looking for another place here on Chuck Morrow.
And Sebastian losing 1 place at the moment, so he's trying to get back to P12 where he started this race at the very start. Oh, and that's that blink that you don't want, isn't it? That's definitely going to throw off both the drivers because Chuck's going to be saying, where was he? He was in my mirrors there for a second. He's disappeared. Is he a magician? Well, he's got to be doing some magic on the track right now if he wants to get this overtake done. Not through there, partner. Not through there.
He's not going to do it through that section of the course, and probably a good idea too. Morrow goes a little bit wider on the entry to Oak Tree. Cuts back in as Greg Seitz gets very close to Luca Varani as well. That's going on side by side. Varani forced to back out of it, and Greg Seitz in the end goes through to 6th place. He tries to recover those places lost when he went wide at turn 1 as a result of Mac Bartolotto. Here's how it was done. It was fairly simple on the straight.
It seems simple, doesn't it, at the time? But you've worked your buttocks off to get to that position to line up the car to do it at the right place at the right time. Oh, it's getting hitting. Look at this. Now, slowly, once again, chipping. That's a 1/10 chip that he had to do. But a 1/10 is all it takes just to build that up. And he knows he's got 5 laps to get it done. So we're going to go back and keep an eye on that one as we get deeper and deeper into the end of this race there. And there's Luca still not happy about that one. Trying to take it back here from Greg.
Yeah, he certainly is. Very nearly did actually in towards turn 1. You think he got quite close to remaking that move. Heading back up into 6th place again. Varani, of course, is one of the most consistent drivers in this series. Always builds his seasons on good finishes. He's been inside the top 5 on the last 2 weeks now, but is certainly not going to manage that this time, I don't think, with the amount of laps that are remaining. Weaving around on the straight there is Greg Seitz as he pulls back to the left to open out Oak Tree, and he's actually done those that section of corners very, very well indeed. Hangs on to 6th place as well. Yeah, the lead is getting very close.
Yeah, this is it. This has got to be game on. No team orders, please, for the No Sim Racing team. It's go. And Connor's going to be gutted if he loses this. He's been driving flawlessly at this point, but it's good that you never want to have, at the end of the day, I mean, drivers love it. They sit there up the road, they're going, okay, bring on the next race. Looking at their watch going, hey, I've got such a big gap. He does not have that luxury at this point. He does not. And Christian Glamster is doing everything he possibly can once again. It's one thing to catch, but it's another thing to overtake.
It is. And Connor Gibb just goes that little bit wide through turn 1, allows Glamseater to close in further. Kenzie Newhoff, by the way, is a long way off these guys. Has not been involved in the battle for quite some time. Ever since he made that attempt or 2 on Christian Glamseater, he was only falling away, and looks like he's on his way to a podium at least, but he's in a very lonely part of the track at the moment. Nobody within 5 seconds of him, in front or behind.
You can just see him there in the background of your pictures,
stand.
yeah. But that's okay. I take podiums any day of the week, because we've seen championships won many times in our racing leagues here at the JP Broadcasting Network, as well as other leagues, where you can just win it by just constantly getting podiums. You don't have to win a race every single time. You just need to be most consistent when it comes to the points, and therefore that big championship trophy is yours at the end of the season. And Christian at the moment is probably not worried too much about be that P2. He's thinking, well, if I have P1 and it's right here, reach out and grab it. Why not take it?
So, 3 laps to go when they get to the line. Is Glamseater going to reach out and take it this time? No. Connor Gibb goes to the middle of the road and just says, well, pick a side if you want to. But it's almost daring him to make the move at the moment. Almost willing him on to try something. Big confidence from the race leader there, just to put the car in the middle of the road. Give Glamseater the choice of whether to go on the inside or the outside. And eventually, he decided neither. Glamseater decided to stay behind. Over the line they go again. And there's 3 laps to go, as I say. Not long, of course. Glamseater needs to start crafting a move soon, because we know that at VIR, the moves are rarely over and done within 1 lap.
We're going to follow this battle essentially to the end of the race, and if there's obviously any overtakes, we'll get a little bit of a replay of what's happening with the rest of the field there. But I think the spotlight's been on a lot of the midfield that you saw before, but now we're going to keep the spotlight on these 2, because this is definitely crunch time for Christian to get something done. We'll have a look as well too of the lap time history between these 2. And there it is. You can see what go with this one at the moment. There it is. So look at that. They're kind of gaining, and that can Gibb managed to gain a little bit more on that last lap, because that's what the problem is now, because Glamps is so close and tucked up in his gearbox. it's very difficult for him to continue that speed and momentum he had over his teammate.
Is there's just not that much time remaining in this race to really craft a move from here now. No traffic in front of them to really speak of. The next traffic is a long way in front, and so they don't have to worry about that for the remainder of the race. Clancy are very much tucked up in the slipstream. There they go, past the camera shot, up the hill through the back straight now, and then they'll go downhill towards the roller coaster again. But again, Clancy are not going through. Now, is this a case of he's waiting for the end of the race so that he can strike when Gibb doesn't have any time to respond? Or is he just weighing up his options right now, deciding what to do here? Because it is pretty intimidating to see Gibb driving down the middle of the road in front of you, almost daring you to go either side of him and make a move, because there's no obvious decision there. Does he go to the inside or outside? Because the road does switch from the left to the right on the run up through turn 14, of course. Fastest lap of the race so far for Christian Glamseter. He's clearly got the speed.
And that's throwing a psychological dummy, because Connor Gibb's going to be having his race engineer saying, fastest lap went to the man that's right behind you, putting the pressure on you. So those little things that chip into a driver's ear takes the best drivers in the world, of course, are the ones that manage to somehow just completely ignore that, completely ignore the fact that there's even a driver behind you at the moment. I've always said as an engineer, snap the mirrors off there and don't mirror drive your own race, because you've got the pace as well. Even if Christian is chipping slowly away, once again, Christian has to get the overtake done. He's going to have to send a late dive here. And I think you're right. You wait until possibly maybe the last lap, or even coming up to this lap now, so that you don't allow enough time for Connor to come back if you do get the overtake, because we've seen that a few times, haven't we? Switcheroos, look at that. Look how close he is. There is no way at the moment Christian does not want this race win. In the dying stages with 2 to go.
He's got to go for it now as well. This is his best chance he's had all day long. Gibb goes to the middle of the road again. Glamseter chooses the left-hand side. It will be inside initially, and then we'll turn to the outside when we get to the deep part of the braking zone, and Gibb brakes early. He's going to go for the different line. He opens up the right-hander a little bit more for that momentum down the hill, but does he have the speed at this stage? Has he set out too fast, or has Glamseter just measured this one to perfection? Out of the final corner they go. There'll be one more lap here at Virginia International Raceway. It could be a last lap decider. Connor Gibb is right in the slipstream of his teammate now. In towards turn 1. In towards the braking zone they go now. Gibbs on the inside again. Glamseter pulls very wide. Lets him through. Hope for the exit maybe, but he gets a slide ever so slightly. And so Connor Gibb retakes the lead on the very last lap.
Has Christian done it too early? Has he done it too early? Has he timed? He's basically played his cards down on the table and said, all right, let's go to the river card. We're playing poker at the moment. So who's going to bluff and not? And that was an all-in move. I'd have to say that from Christian. And of course, Connor Gibb has called that bluff. And now this is possibly the very last chance that Christian's going to be able to lay his other deck of cards down here. Throw whatever magic tricks he has for the 18 No Limits Racing driver. And Connor has to hold off. He's been leading every lap of this race apart from one little moment in one corner. This is getting spicy and dicey and exciting here on the JP Broadcasting Network.
It's out of Oak Tree Corner, and I'm not sure Glamseter's got the run at all. That was a big slide on the exit of that turn, and Christian Glamseter may well have thrown away his best chance at winning this race. He pulled wide out of turn 1, of course, just to make sure that he could get the run and maybe try again later, but he's not close enough here, surely. He looks to the inside and he can't do it. Connor Gibb will hang on over the course of turn 14 and 14A. Now down in towards the final turns they go. It's going to be a nail-biter to the very end, but Connor Gibb's going to have it. Glamseter goes wide. Connor Gibb wins at Virginia International Raceway by the barest of margins in a no-limit sim racing 1-2 for the team. Connor Gibb beats Christian Glamseter by 4.5 tenths in the end, with a last lap pass into turn 1 to restore the lead that he held all day long.
Wow. Wow. We definitely know there's no team orders between those two drivers, and that's great to see. Great racing. And of course, the No Limit Racing team will be very, very happy to have a 1-2. And obviously their chief engineer, if that was Toto Wolff or whatever, wouldn't be any Bose headphones being thrown around there. Brilliant job. Brilliant racing. That's what we have to expect at this league here. We do have a few retirements, of course. We don't know if it's technical issues, but we have these two drivers, of course, just finishing a little bit. A couple other drivers are still racing around the track, of course. That goes to show you the pace difference there was, isn't it? Between these drivers on essentially, as you said, 28 laps, but what a race. Outstanding. Connor, probably very happy. You can see there at the moment, if they were to add that in iRacing, he'd be putting his hand out there at the moment and give him a nice little wave to the crowd, as well as to his teammate.
Yep, great racing between the teammates. No Limit Sim Racing take a big step forward in the team's championship today, I think it's fair to say. They moved up to second during the last race. They'll close in on Kenzie Newhoff and Pedro Suarez again themselves, although it was a third and a fifth for the teams leading Hydro Race Racing forces today, so they've not done too badly either. Further back, we are still waiting for Matt Brewer to come over the line before we can show you our results at the end of 28 laps here at the Virginia International Raceway tonight. But what a fantastic race that was. Connor Gibb and Christian Glamsey made us wait for the very end, I think it's fair to say, but they provided the show once it began. Those final couple of laps were very, very interesting indeed. And a last lap passing towards turn one gave Connor Gibb the win. Half a second was the gap at the line over his teammate Christian Glamsey. We'll have a look at those results, and there they are. 447 thousandths of a second separate them at the end of 28 laps. Kenzie Newhoff was 6 seconds back, just ahead of his championship rival Max Bartolotta. The story continues between them. Pedro Suarez rounds out the top five. Greg Seitz will be disappointed with Max Bartolotta after their incident in towards turn one. Another consistent day for Luca Verani, ends him in 7th. Andrea Cato finishes 8th ahead of Tony Jimenez and Andy Flynn, who were all within 20 seconds of the race winner, and a close region of the field. Robert Ridgway just missed out on a top 10, and so did Chuck Morrow. Sebastian Graveland did eventually get past Zoltan Zamata for 13th, and Edward Amos rounded out the top 15 in the standings. Jacques Willems and Rinus Gattini were the final drivers to finish within a minute, ahead of Koji Ito and John McKenzie, 18th and 19th. Dorian Arroyo was 20th, ahead of Matthew Gracie. Ben Goyette and Matt Brewer, the final drivers on the lead lap. Adam Townsmer and Ivan Zura had to take trips to the pit lane over the course of the day, but they will be classified from that race in 24th and 25th. However, Chris Stewart, Reed Dennis, Louis Gregg, along with Philip Lucas, Roberto Fay and Mike Sotlovs, all will not be classified from that race, unfortunately, after falling way too many laps down. So that is it for the race here at VIR. Very, very enjoyable, I got to say. Biggles thoroughly enjoyed that one. A last lap pass, can't complain about that with that battle between the teammates.
Absolutely, as Smoking Duck Racing out there said, epic. It was absolutely epic. You couldn't have pitched it better. Once again, I still haven't seen the Formula One results there in Mexico today, but I tell you what, I can probably guarantee this race is even more exciting. Most of the sim racing is more exciting than the real racing, of course, because drivers can take gambles without having to worry about a hospital, perhaps visiting a hospital later on. Let's see if we can get whether or not we have any drivers there for an interview, because I would love to hear what Connor and Christian, of course, what their thoughts were through them. Like, if we confirm that they are definitely wheel-to-wheel racing, go between the teammates. And did Christian, do you think as well, throw his cards a little too early there, throw the dummy a little bit too early, and allow enough time for Connor to come back and retake that P1 that he held for 99.9% of the race?
I think it's interesting you mentioned that at the time, actually, that did he put his cards down on the table too early? To be fair, I'm not sure we ever got the answer to that question, because in the end, what it came down to, in my opinion, was Christian Glamsitter's run on the exit of Oak Tree just wasn't good enough. And whether Kit Gibb would have been able to hang on anyway is a different story, I think, and we may never really know. However, I think Glamsitter's run off of Oak Tree Corner just wasn't good enough. Nevertheless, we'll have another look at it. There's the side-by-side. This is the penultimate lap, I'm guessing, on the way towards the roller coaster. But great shots.
Yes.
And a great battle between them. By the way, unfortunately, we don't normally get any drivers to come chat to us at the end of the race, unfortunately. But if you are a driver watching this in retrospect, watching the replay tomorrow or something, I know it's quite late in Europe at the moment, but if you are a driver watching this in retrospect, then in future, please do put yourself in the interview waiting room, and we can have a chat after these races, because normally we don't get to hear from the driver's side of the story. This was the moment where the race was decided, though, where Connor Gibb came back at Christian Glamsitter into turn one.
It was, yeah, exactly. But this is the moment that the drivers were going for it, isn't it? And we'll kind of show you those pictures again real quick there. While once again we don't have any interviews, and you can have a look, isn't it? Like, just we're quarter speeding this one. Look at this power slide. That was it. See that power slide?
Yeah.
That's just like, it's everything you can possibly give it. Where Christian, of course, is in P2 at this point. And then, of course, we'll go over and have a look at when Connor overtook him again. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the move. Down the inside, he eventually goes. Brakes very late, and Glamsey lets him have it. And then just look at the car on the left there. The slide is going to come. There's the correction that he has to make. Just as he's getting on the power, there it is. And he just doesn't get the run off of turn one. And a similar thing, I just wonder whether his rear tyres were going away, Glam City, because a similar thing happened out of Oak Tree on that last lap. And in the end, those exits just weren't good enough for him to get the race win. And that's the sort of fine margins that separate these guys.
And those two guys, of course, were 6 seconds of change. Remember, Kenzie was bringing it to him at the start. So I just kind of wonder what happened with Kenzie, because it was the only one that really was in the same class field of these two drivers here this evening. The only one. So going back to the green flag conditions so that we can quickly just go over the race start there for a second, because we don't have driver interviews, as you mentioned. But anything in particular standing out from you on this race start?
It's the start for Glamseater for me. Look at the way that everybody else is pretty well evenly started. And you can see that towards the back. But Glamseater is a lot closer to the driver in front of him than anybody else is. And I just think it was a fantastic start from him to get up into second place. And in the end, that was the key in terms of him applying the pressure to Connor Gibb, because it allowed him that move down the inside. He eventually gets this done. Newhoff can't hang on around the outside of turn one, which is a difficult line to pick all day long. And so through in the end went Glamsey, and that was the key to at least allowing him to try and go for that race win, because without that move, then he wouldn't have even had the chance.
Yep, and that will be it for our broadcast. So you and I, once again, appreciate having to share the casting box with you here for the James Parfitt Broadcasting Network. Any final words, of course, and then we're going to have a bit of a break, aren't we, before we resume the rest of the series?
Yes, thanks very much. Yeah, thanks for being alongside me as well. I know it's not the usual commentary duo, but you know, James will be back next week, as far as I'm aware. And so I thank you very much for your company. Thanks very much to everyone who's watched along here tonight, both live and retrospectively as well. It's been great to have you along, and I hope you've enjoyed the show, because it was an epic race in the end. Connor Gibb winning by about half a second here at the Virginia International Raceway. Next time out, we will be taking a trip further north in North America and to Montreal, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, for round 8 of our championship here at Montreal. So I hope you'll join us, same time, same place for then. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the JPB YouTube channel for all of the other broadcasts that are going on throughout the week, and there are a lot of them, so make sure you subscribe and check them out. For now, though, we will bid our farewells. I've been Ewan O'Leary, and it's been Dean Biggles alongside me for this round of the iGPFun F3 League. Until we see you at Montreal in 1 week's time, it's goodbye for now.